am going to share with you my Cool Smoke barbecue rub. It's very similar to the flavors that I use in competition barbecue. It's in my cookbook. You'll find the recipe on my website at tuffystone.com. But let's just talk briefly about rubs. If we're gonna babysit a rack of ribs for 4 hours, or we're gonna cook a beef brisket for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, or if you're gonna get out there on the circuit and try and win yourself a trophy or a ribbon, we wanna make sure that these rubs and these seasonings that we put on this meat are fresh and really great flavors. So when I'm making my own rubs, when it comes to ingredients like peppercorns, black peppercorns, white peppercorns, pink peppercorns, I grind those fresh in a coffee grinder or a spice grinder. You're gonna find those flavors are just so fragrant and so delicious. But if you don't wanna do that, just make sure that whatever ingredients that you use to make your rub or to make this rub are really, really fresh. Just a little side story. When I first got into competition barbecue, I was literally driving all over the country, and I was pulling my pit and gas and probably missing a little league baseball game or something like that. And I was driving all over the country doing these competitions. And one day as I was driving, I thought to myself, I was like, do I have the freshest rubs possible? And I got to thinking about my cupboard. I got to thinking about my spice cabinet back home. And I thought, you know, I probably got some cinnamon that's been in there for 15 or 20 years. And it just dawned on me that day. It's like, all right, I'm traveling, I'm spending all this money, I'm not with my family, I'm trying to do well in competition barbecue, and I need to make sure that all of my ingredients that I'm cooking this meat with have the flavor that I'm looking for. And so honestly, I came home after that thought, and I cleaned out my cupboard, and I took out a lot of the old spices and I threw them away. I started buying smaller quantities of some of these ingredients with the idea that I would go through them faster. So when we're making a rub, just make sure that all of the ingredients that you use have great flavor. You know, I'm so proud of the rubs and the sauces that I've created and put in a shaker, but you wanna keep them sealed, keep them in a cool, dark place. They'll last a really long time. All right, so we're gonna make my Cool Smoke barbecue rub. There's 8 ingredients. So to start with, we're gonna use a ½ a cup of turbinado sugar. Next, we're gonna put a ¼ cup of kosher salt. Next up, we're gonna use a ¼ cup of Cool Smoke smoked chili powder. You'll find 2 types of chili powders out there. You'll find where the chilies themselves are ground, so it might be ancho, it might be chipotle, it might be guajillo, but you'll also find chili powders out there in the grocery stores where it's the chili powder, but then it has other ingredients like oregano and garlic and things like that. So with my recipes, I wanted to be very consistent with the chili powder that I was using in my recipes. So I created my own Cool Smoke smoked chili powder. You'll find the recipe on my website. It's super simple, but this is going to be a ¼ cup of Cool Smoke smoked chili powder. Next, we're going to do a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of both granulated onion and granulated garlic. I preferred granulated versus powdered. I think that it sprinkles better, so all my recipes I'll use granulated garlic, granulated onion versus powdered onion or powdered garlic. I know my recipes are a pain. A tablespoon plus a teaspoon, really? Well, I'm here to tell you, I tested them a multitude of times, and that extra teaspoon made a difference in my opinion. So in goes the granulated garlic and the granulated onion. Next up, a tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper. One of my favorite spices next, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of fresh ground cumin. And lastly, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now we're gonna just mix this until it's well combined. You could use your hands, you could use a whisk, you could use a combination of both. If you have any clumps of like cayenne pepper and things like that, we really wanna break it up. I am always gonna shake my rubs up before applying the meats. Just an interesting thing to think about when you do make your own fresh rubs. I found these flavors to get better as these ingredients commingle. So what I mean by that is these rubs actually get better color and better flavor development as they sit for a few days. If you make your own shakers, this is one of my favorite shakers. You can find them online. A couple brands make them. Cambro, Carlisle. I think they're actually made for Parmesan cheese, but they just are really great shaker for applying rubs when you're cooking, barbecue, grilling. A lot of times I'll just take a piece of plastic, put it over it before I clamp the lid on, because I want to keep the air off, and then repeating myself. And if I repeat myself, it means that it's really important to me. I am always going to shake my rubs up before applying the meats. And that's how I make my Cool Smoke barbecue rub. Just fresh, bold, great for pork, beef, and chicken.